Yo, welcome everybody. Starting the stream in just a couple minutes here. I'm actually making some very quick updates on BlueStacks because my app there was outdated, so downloading some stuff from the store. But intention right now, starting half an hour early before Guild Wars. I'm going to go over a little bit about the map since I haven't really done a map review yet. A little bit about the new guild, some Q&A, some concerns I've seen in the comments. Really just whatever anybody wants to talk about. We got a half an hour to kill, so go through some theory crafting, a little bit about what I'm seeing, and yeah, just kind of chill till the actual Guild War starts. And one of the big things we're going to do today is we're going to speed run how fast we can beat this guild in limited Guild Wars. So those of you listening right now, I didn't realize this, so one of the benefits of VIP is essentially where the time zones are located when everyone is active, that everyone is active within the starting time of the Guild Wars, so they typically like to attack as early as possible so that everyone can have their whole rest of the night free. And with the limited Guild Wars, I don't know how to put this bluntly, quite frankly, the level of competition differentiation between VIP and your average guild is vast enough that they are enjoying essentially speedrunning to see how fast they can clear 90 stars. So, here we are. Welcome, everybody. That is going to be part of it. So today, I think the goal is that they want to clear all 90 stars in 10 minutes or less. Yesterday, they did 12 minutes, so I think the new goal is 10. So essentially what they end up doing is, obviously we have 2 hours of Guild War prep from the time that your opponent is announced to the time at which the Guild War actually starts. And so effectively they do their scouting. Everyone has an opportunity to call who they want to attack, and everyone locks in their 30 attacks. And then that way when 5 o'clock rolls around, everybody's just bam, ready to go. And with any luck, everyone is kind of churned through opponents relatively quickly. So that is what we're hoping to expect. Hi, Drex. What's up, man? And Edwin, welcome as well, everybody that's here. So kind of kicking things off, because, again, this is going to be recorded for those watching in hindsight. I did want to talk a little bit about the map here. And actually, let me pull up my pen tool here. Just a moment. Hey, what's up, Nergent? Yeah, seriously, this Bam Bam is an understatement. So some general thoughts here on the Limited Guild Wars map. Not one that I've done so far yet, but I figured I'd do 2 in 1 in this video. This map's obviously new to global, not one that we've seen in any arena or Guild Wars previously. It's a quite honestly an interesting map. So the map buffs in particular is obviously the magic 30% for lightning units and the spirit of 20. Now, quite frankly, that kind of offsets, in my opinion, in terms of what you would get for a magic buff for lightning units. To me, it's really for Resnick to increase their healing potency, because the extra magic that they're going to get from the attacks is really just not going to do anything, given that the enemies will all universally have 20 spirit. So that's the map effects in a nutshell. Well, the good thing about the spirit of 20 is that those characters that typically are a little more weak to magic have an opportunity to shine a little more than they normally would, because they're just not as fragile against that attack type. Now, talking about this map in particular, anyone that's seen how I break these down, there's really like 3 things that I always look for. And number 1 is the spacing between the slots. And just high level for anyone that has never seen this view of the map, this is a bird's eye view. These black boxes here in the middle mean that they are non-traversable, so you cannot walk through them. These little shaded squares here that you see are the starting spots that people can stand in. And right next to them, I have marked what slot they are. So whether you're a person slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. I also then on this map, all these numbers that you're seeing are the elevations of the squares, and they are color-coded accordingly, so that it is a bit of a topographical map of sorts. And then for anything that has a jump of 2 or more, I do have these like harsh black lines going through to indicate that characters with just regular kinds of movement cannot walk through them. So for anyone visually trying to get their head around what this looks like, that's what it is. Now, this map in particular, again, starting off from scratch, what I normally look for is the spacing between the slots, meaning how many spaces are your teammates away from each other, because that will indicate what kind of buffs you can potentially use. Sometimes if squares are 4 squares away, well, that means that characters with a base move of 3 will not typically be able to move and use the majority of the buffs going to a teammate. That is not the case on this map, where between the starting spots here, it's 3 squares on each, so anyone has the opportunity to buff with a base set of movement. Technically, in terms of laning, like who is across from each other, slot 1 is across from slot 1, 2 is across from 2, and 3 is across from 3. This map is actually not a perfect mirror of itself. You'll notice that at the northern top, or the top part of the map here, there are some extra non-traversable areas, and then there's an extra row down here of these 2 squares. It's a little bit staggered in that regard, but that's really the only difference in terms of the mirror of the map. What was the next thing I was going to talk about here? Oh, laning. So the idea of laning, or I'm sorry, wrong term, funneling. The idea of funneling is essentially maps via their topography have certain natural choke points that characters will move toward unless they have like a jump of 3 or jump of 4. And so they naturally tend to funnel towards certain areas. Where that gets really strategic is depending upon where you start your initial hate to essentially get people to move toward. And so some maps have very hard choke points via their topography, either because places are just non-traversable, you can't walk over them, or other ones just have heights that are just too vast for the majority of characters to use. On this map, there aren't any particularly strong funnels. There are some places where your characters can get caught up as they move forward in this little area, but it's not technically a funnel in that regard. That being said, if you really can think of this map in, I would say, the top half and the bottom half, where if you do have an enemy hate that starts up here in slot 1, let's say, it is, as your characters start to move in that direction overall, there really becomes like two pseudo funnels, if you will, where because these boxes are non-traversable, you do essentially kind of get this funneling right here, but it's not a hard funnel because there's obviously gaps to still walk through in other areas. So I wouldn't call it a funnel in the sense that we normally think of them, but definitely is some topography here that at least makes it so it's not a free-for-all arena. That being said, other noticeable things, once you do get to this middle, relatively flat overall where the majority of the spaces are height 1 or height 2. So, a lot of AoE attacks that do have up to range height or height range 1 or 2. A lot of things can land, so there are opportunities for large, giant attacks. Range attacks in particular definitely work well here too, where this map has a length of 15 squares, which is definitely on the larger side in terms of length. That's definitely up there for some of the largest that I've seen. And that really just means that you can get upwards of 2 to 3 buffs. So characters that do benefit from many buffs or take a little while to get ramped up, definitely 2 thumbs up here on this map that they have the opportunity to do so. For speaking about slots in particular, the one thing that I've noticed that can be a hurdle if not properly prepared for is that this slot 2 person has a hard wall in front of them, whereas the other slots do not. Which means when this person moves, they will innately be just a little bit behind where the teammates are. So whether that's because they move to buff someone, so for instance, if they move up here to buff a teammate, and this teammate then moves through squares, this person naturally is just going to start lagging behind them as they start moving. Or number 2, if they decide to go straight like down the middle instead, well, they technically have to move this way first. And so because they have to take one lateral movement before they can move forward, they will technically be like one row behind. They do eventually catch up, but again, there's enough topographical hurdles in the middle here that sometimes they can just lag behind innately. So characters, hey, Starwolf, what's up, man? Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, Lukavi's a great. I mean, they do limited Guild War really well. As far as I know, we've always gone undefeated in the limited Guild Wars, dating back to the year that I've done it. Oh, we might have had one where we had one loss, but either way, I'm glad that was a good first experience for you. So this is definitely a nice week to play with some comps that you may not otherwise have, particularly because the map buffs are kind of unique from what you might see in Guild War. Getting back to some of the map topography here, though. In terms of element types, so just in terms of what elements are the strongest. Now, obviously, the water meta, as it stands, is amongst the strongest you can get. And although we did see an oppressiveness from them on the last map because of the 20 agility, that's really not where they shine. They actually are the kind of comp that does appreciate getting an extra 2 to 3 buffs in there, where Celeste, Runic Shield is obviously really amazing, but her ability that also gives her the extra hate and the unit resistance really puts her on a different tier of resiliency, in addition to a potential chance to use a TMR as well. And then Astria is kind of the same idea, where in the last Guild War map, it just happens so fast that sure, no, Dervis, I will never dethrone Buki for preparing team comp. So this is actually one of the main motivators for me joining VIP. Although I am like fairly confident in how I look at stats and like being able to kind of like conceptually understand certain matchups and what things are relatively strong compared to others, the actual X's and O's of tuning what abilities to have on and off and where agility is the missing, the key piece here, or being able to bait certain comps, I definitely need some work on that point. So I very much doubt I will dethrone anybody in VIP to that degree. Call Going back. Oh, the element breakdown. So yeah, and then even Astrius, where, sure, he's got the slash resistance up one, but his best buff is his courage buff that also gives him the defense penetration and the AP consumption reduction. So yeah, water in particular obviously does stellar on this map. That being said, I think lightning does as well, where they too are the kind of element that does appreciate a lot of the extra time to ramp up, where Charlotte is kind of like a two-turn tank where she needs the attract wall, and then she also gets her one that gives her, oh goodness, is it protecting shield? Glorious armor with the regen and whatnot. And Cloud is kind of the same. You want Cloud to have an opportunity to go use his Soldier's Honor on a teammate, and then maybe use TMR of sorts. And the same can be said if you're using gunners in general. Gunners appreciate the turn for like aimed fire and then council and then something else. So lightning definitely also does appreciate this. Esther in particular is a unit that does like to have two turns. So I do think there's some competitive things to play with. On that note, though, as we continue to go around the element circle, though, I do also think Earth is extremely strong here for the reason that, as we talked about, pertaining to the mobility of the map, where a lot of these, little areas here have some difficult hurdles for characters with base movement to move. Earth does not have that problem, obviously, where the majority of the really strong characters do have a jump of 2 to jump of 4. And even characters, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Ketone per se, but this is the kind of map where it's flat enough in the middle where Drain Force is a viable option, or for really any character that wants to use Drain Force. But Earth in particular, the mobility here really is a strong point for them. And obviously, they just are strong in general at the moment now that Mono Light has subsided just a little bit. On that topic, I do think Mono Light does have some potential here to do well, but the Spirit of 20 does kind of neuter Elena to some degree in terms of what she can do for damage, so it's less oppressive. I do think in the majority of the latter, though, there's certainly no reason why Mono Light can't be strong on this map. Hypothetically, they still do really well with all those buffs being able to, March of the Stag and Elena using Stellar Artoy and a whole bunch of things. So I do think Light can be strong here. It really just depends on what you're seeing. Thinking of the rest of the elements here, I'm a big fan of Wind personally as well. The thing with Wind, June is a tank that does have jump of 2, so she does relatively well getting to the front lines quickly. Obviously, my favorite thing about Wind is the versatility between physical-oriented units and magic-oriented units, where you can really go either, Halloween Leela and more the merrier, or if you want to go more physical, you certainly could go like 2B Tifa. I do think Wind has enough versatility and strength that the vision cards support it, that I do think Earth being where it is, I think Wind can be competitive here too, depending on where you are. And the 20 Spirit. Yeah, and Durham's a great point. The 20 Spirit, again, Esther's a great example of this. Characters that typically don't do well against magic, this Spirit is a great way to hedge that weakness for them. So Esther is a fantastic unit as an example for someone who benefits from that. The element wheel. Talking about Wind. Fire, I am unfortunately not a big fan of on this map, or really in general. Everyone kind of knows my opinion on that, despite the fact that I'm a big Fire stan. I absolutely love the Fire element. It's just not feasible in like the majority of instances. And so theoretically, yeah, this kind of map, particularly with the Spirit increase of 20, a lot of the really strong Fire characters as of late are the more magic-oriented side. When you think of Classic Glassy, Terra, then unfortunately, Will's initiation is to attack first. All right, I'm ready. I got the counter, Sinister. That 15 minutes till countdown. I told everybody in the intro we were going for like a 10-minute clear, so I'll hopefully get that kicked off there. Yeah, and start off, Cetia can slap. So the thing with Cetia, I don't think everyone is really gearing for a ton of missile resistance on this map, despite the fact that it could be a good missile map. Cetia does have the benefit of healing power down. I think that's one of the best parts of her kit, as we continue to see Velas get some relative strength. Same thing can be said for just her overall like fire imperil, that it does obviously help for teammates. But I think the threat of water is big enough that fire is not just strong enough to use regularly. I'm not saying it can't work. It's obviously just more situational, a little more niche. I don't think anyone's making defense macros out of the fire element on this map, though, if that makes sense. This is great. This is great. Thank you, guys. What elements am I missing? I know I'm missing dark, and I'm missing ice. Yeah, not much to say about ice. Ice is in a tough spot at the moment, and the same thing for dark. So my opinion of both those elements at the moment are that they are currently just slightly power crept because of the strength of their tank, where every element right now, by and large, has a tank that has some form of like protect and shell or like unit resistance or some kind of gimmick in them for their survivability. Where quite frankly, Freyevia is like a one-trick tank. She does really well against pure magic-oriented units. Sure, a little bit of slash resistance, and theoretically, if you get Spell Veil Blade right, she can get her defense and spirit ramped up pretty quickly, but She just doesn't have the defense or the spirit values innately to get there, and the rest of her abilities in the kit are relatively weak, so her ceiling is slightly limited, which obviously limits what Ice can do overall. That being said, that's the benefit of, something like Chaos Odin and Celeste and the Rainbow comps that we see with Velas, and even throwing Oberyn in an Ice team or something, because he obviously does well also. There's opportunities, but Ice is definitely in a tough spot, particularly because although I said Wind is good, I don't think you see a ton of Wind either, but it's certainly there. And then leaves us finally with Dark. And to me, the biggest problem with Dark at the moment is also intertwined with Dwayne as a tank. And quite frankly, I don't even consider him a tank at this state in the game anymore. I did when he was first released because he was one of two people that had innate hate, hate that didn't require a taunting blade. So sure, but nowadays he has that 5 hate to start, and there's no way to regenerate it. So the fact that he can't even regenerate the hate takes him out of the tank debate for me. And then secondly, he just doesn't have the survivability that other tanks or have at this state of the game. That, sure, he's got some nice resistances, but the lack of Protect and Shell, and just the lack of overall survivability via what he can do with defense and spirit comparatively puts him at a weaker state. So to me, he's kind of like a pseudo DPS to that regard. He definitely needs the mastery ability too badly. And regardless, we obviously are going to see an influx of fantastic 100 cost Dark units. So even without him as the tank, I think Fire will have, or Dark will have an opportunity to shine. But most importantly, it really is map dependent, and long maps like this, they just don't do well because they are truly like the glass cannons. They don't have a lot of survivability, so their whole thing is like you just got to kill faster than you die, and I just don't think that a map like this caters to that. Starwolf, I'll answer that question in just a second here. And Shinokugi, I will too, also. On the Dark. Oh, my last thing on the Dark units is that because some of their strongest units, when you do think about them, Black Rose Elena, hypothetically, you could throw Golbez, Garvel in that mix. With the presence of Celeste and some of the uptick in magic resistance, they obviously have decreased value because of that. Prompto is immensely niche depending on the map, but certainly could work. Joker, little underwhelming. His time to shine is not quite yet. So when you go through that cast of characters, there really just isn't anyone at the moment that would carry them here. So that's kind of my opinion on Dark for this map. But getting to two really good points here. Starwolf, I'll circle back on the 13 thought in just a second here, but I completely agree with you, Shinokuga, about the lack of vision cards for Fire. That's one of my biggest, not complaints, but that's one of the places where they're held back the most. That they obviously, in the initial release of King Mont, got a lot of really great Fire vision cards. Not only did they get his, but the Rain vision card with the global buff and whatnot. They were in a really good place for quite some time. And even like the, what was the card? Death Machine, the area resistance. Well, at that time of the game, there weren't many cards with area resistance. So at that time, because that is a fire-oriented vision card, it really was a premium for that element. Now, though, a lot of other element vision cards do have AoE resistance, so that has decreased in value comparatively. And then even the rest of their vision cards, I just don't think they're as strong. So I completely agree. I'm very interested, not only in the release of Valentine Ildira when she comes out, but also when, if and when, they do the global exclusive unit for Fire, and what vision card they will give that Fire element at that time. I have no doubt that's probably coming at some point. I just couldn't tell you when. To me, the tough thing about Fire too is that because Ice isn't all that strong, there isn't a strong incentive to use them because of the biggest threat of water. Until Ice gets some relative strength, I think Fire is just going to be in this sort of weird spot overall. Which brings me to Starwolf's question about being excited for Snow and the other 13 characters. So actually, yes, Snow in particular and the Agrius MA2 upgrade. Ice is looking incredible at the moment, and to me, that's kind of where you get the relative value across elements. Where if Ice is suddenly immensely strong, so doesn't Fire, get a little uptick there. So I haven't studied their kit or even their stats so far. That's the kind of thing that's unfortunately just a little too far away for my analysis, and I say that because so much of the game is map dependent as well. That not only do I not know what the global exclusive units that they'll release along the way, but I also don't know the maps well enough of what's to come that even if I rate a character, some characters could be great characters, but if the map doesn't cater to it, it's hard for me to have a strong opinion. That being said, Snow looks great, Lightning looks great, Hope looks fair. Probably not for Guild Wars, but for other content, certainly. Definitely PvE content. And I think I saw Fang too. I don't know if that was a fake banner that I saw though, but I try not to look that far ahead into the game just because there's so many X factors that can influence things. But yeah, that's my kind of thoughts in a nutshell here. Yeah, and I agree. I think ice is going to be the next big wave after lightning. Just the fact of Velos alone at the moment of how strong he is, and then when you consider a potentially very strong tank, ice actually I think does have a lot of individually, above average units. I kind of think of them like wind pre Joom's release, where I don't think any of the characters there are extremely bad. And I'm just gonna bring up the current list of units that have EX upgrades. I guess I kind of take that back. There, as the game has gone on, that's definitely changed a little bit. So when I think of like the strongest units here, Sweetheart Salier is up there, but very much glass cannon. I am a big Velric fan. I do like his survivability. He unfortunately just, I don't know if he packs the offensive punch that they need, but as a slash unit, he definitely fits. Aranea obviously is very, very good potentially. She does have that magic weakness, which you need to skew for. Dervis hit the nail on the head, though. When Eliza comes out, she actually will be a. I'm going to pick my adjectives here carefully. She's going to be a excellent unit. That being said, I don't think there's really many bad units that Gumi releases throughout time, but yeah, I'll reserve judgment till I see a little more out of her. But I do not disagree. I think Eliza is also a very valuable unit. If I were to, let me rephrase this, if I were to rank her out of the ice units currently on the page, she would be damn near the top. Now, obviously, there's a discussion to be had in the whole broad scheme of the game, but as far as ice units go, definitely an excellent unit. Oh, thank you, Shino. Fang is an NPC. Okay, I thought that was the case. I didn't think I heard anything about her being a character. And we are ticking down here. We got 7 minutes till Guild War starts. We're looking to apparently break some personal records within the guild. We'll see how this turns out. So I have a target picked for who I'm going to attack. And I do not technically have a follow-up attack quite yet. This is going to happen real fast, though, once people start going. But it should be exciting. So getting it back into BlueStacks here. No, I guess we'll keep looking at the map. I think I've said everything I need to say, though, in terms of map strategy, relative element strength. I was actually talking with JB79 about this the other day. JB, for those of you who don't know who he is, absolutely like fantastic X's and O guys. Dare I even go to say the best in the game? He is, quite frankly, always at like the top of like the guild raids in terms of high scores. Really just a fantastic player of the game. We were just talking about the limited guild wars recently and how, well, it's not really limited anymore. There really are no cost limitations or restrictions or anything. So I know it was initially probably thought like, hey, if you put too many restrictions on it, it caters to people that have the amount of resources that doesn't matter. I don't know how to phrase that. Like, whales and krakens and veterans have a lot of MR units max, so it's not a problem, but newer players may not. But having no restrictions and having the brackets the way they are, the balance is just it's genuinely unfair. I don't know how anyone that's not in a competitive guild has fun with this. There's like really no strategy in terms of min-maxing the limitation. So I don't know if they're bringing that back or not, but I do miss it just a little bit. Yeah, yeah, even older free to play. The incentive to build your MR and SR units because of the cost of blossoms and whatnot just has never been economical for the majority of the player base. Completely agreed on that point. So yeah, BlueStacks. Oh, you know what? This is actually a good opportunity to talk. Yeah, nerd, totally. The limited cost I think is the most interesting because you obviously get to use units that you've never used before or may not use as often. And then it just gives you opportunities to see new things that you haven't seen before. That's really at the end of the day. You guys know me. I'm super interested in like theory crafting and learning. And when you confine yourself to looking at only, meta units, I don't want to say it gets boring, but that's one of the best things about the limited cost comps is that you get to consider all the characters as potential strengths and throwing people off guard. That's kind of the cool thing too. We got a couple minutes here, 4 minutes left till Guild War lock-in. I'll start closing down some of these extra apps just to make sure I don't crash BlueStacks mid-attack. The Bojack Long, that they should have a limited cost PvP that changes weekly in addition to normal PvP. I would agree with that. Actually, I was just gonna say, I think of class match when you bring up something like that. I would tend to agree. I would love for even just the free match option, like the match battle, to be able to do that. Totally. Particularly for players that like manual PvP. That's kind of subsided because they've introduced auto for a lot of those kind of game types. But I know there's a lot of hardcore live PvP fans that obviously don't like that, as it takes away from the creativeness. But I also know there's some flaws with manual live PvP. But either way, there's I think things Gumi can do better. And as we get to these last couple minutes, there's actually a few comments that I saw of things that I wanted to address this as well. Where when I did my VIP, joining announcement video, there were some concerns that I would be limited to what I could do for content, limited to not being able to do stuff like this anymore. I'm obviously doing this to ensure you that that's not the case. And quite frankly, VIP, for whatever people think would, I don't know what the word is, like put a noose or collar around my neck and stop what I can do. That's actually not the case. Now, obviously, there's things, even when I was part of Lukavi, I wouldn't reveal for the sake of competitive advantage. So, even in my old guild, I wouldn't show you guys what our defense wall was. I wouldn't show you what we're thinking strategically. I'm not going to do that for VIP either, but their leadership runs it like a business, and they're extremely understanding about what I do for work, and I'm completely understanding about what they do in terms of maintaining the top. So for anyone that had concerns about my content being affected or silenced, definitely not the case. We had conversations about that ahead of time, and I can guarantee you nothing's changing. So big props to the guild, obviously, for letting me even do something like this. Shouldn't come as a surprise. They I'm sure like having the opportunity to showcase this live as well. So here we are, 2 minutes down till we start the Guild War. I am going to... I want to make sure I don't click anything that I shouldn't here. Yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till the 5 o'clock mark, till I see this pop up here. So I'm going to get my screen ready here for scouting. And again, those of you that may have joined late, this is the kind of thing where in that 2-hour window of between when your opponent gets declared and when the attack started, we've already begun to try to coordinate this so we can speed run the attacks as they come. And so forgive me if you if I ignore the comment section here for just a couple minutes once this kicks off. I apologize. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on real fast in my Discord, so I'll try to get to every comment as possible, but only got 2 eyes. So as of right now, I got my target picked. We're looking at 4:59. I'm just waiting for my computer clock to click down here now to 5, and then once I go, timers start. 5 o'clock. All right, let's see. Did the game update? And, oh, you know what? I completely screwed this up. I should have talked about my attack comp. So, quite frankly, my attack comp is not... I might have a minute to do this. Yeah, whew, didn't reveal anything. Not optimized by any means. It is something I wanted to have some fun with. I have not been able to use Halloran and Ryu a lot. I wanted an opportunity to, given that we have the Spirit buff of 20. I obviously wanted to lean a little bit into Earth, because I do think that a lot of people use Lightning. And this Earth comp actually can do relatively well against water as well, because they are so physically oriented. And then they're accurate enough between Oberyn and the Guaranteed of Noctis that even the evasion comps I'm pretty happy with. So this has been a fun one to play with. My only problem with Ryu here, he runs out of buffs. So come the second fight, he usually just kind of stands around and does nothing. So we'll see if that's the case here too. My clock says 5 o'clock. I'm waiting for this to pop up on my screen. No, don't load. What are you doing? There we go. Guild War has not started yet. Any minute now. Oh, have not claimed those yet. Thank you for the good luck. Yeah, so Dervis, that's actually one of the things everyone's super curious about. Everyone just went so. Guild War started for you. Interesting. No, so actually on attack, I have some all of us have flexibility to use what we want. It's really just on the expectation that we can clear a majority of what we see at the top end of the game in the meta. So it's really, more emphasis put on making sure we have the right defensive macro put up. But in terms of offensive, there really isn't any limitations put into place as long as it works. At the end of the day, that's the caveat to it all. Come on! I'm just gonna go into the guild. Has it started? I didn't see it pop yet. Okay, it did start. Okay, I'm kicking this off now. So I do have a target, picked it out ahead of time. I do technically have a backup target in my head, but we'll see what ends up happening. If it actually works. I see people already starting to attack, and I don't see mine hit yet. So we're going to attack, and I picked out Sin. So this on our scouting does look to be a lightning-oriented comp. It is obviously very physically heavy with that attack stat. So, you know, I do have a little bit of spirit built in. I think it was on Ryu I had something built in, but... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I gave him the vest, so I'm good. Yeah, and Durbus, on the concept of the 30-man walls, I'll be honest, even at the top end of the game, even if you get walls that are up to 28 instead of the 30, you can still win Guild Wars depending on the strength of your attacks. Quite honestly, the thing about VIP, that once you get into making 28 or 30-man macros, at that point, it just becomes who has the better macro. And at the top end of the game, VIP is just the best at doing that. So regardless of if other guilds can make 28 or 30-person macros, I still think the quality of the macro will lean in VIP's favor, obviously, at the end of it. It'll certainly be competitive. I'm sorry. So I may have understated that. They will be competitive. Don't get me wrong. It's just, that's not all it takes. There's definitely a lot more that goes into it. So I expected this. Obviously, Time Mage Nivlu. I'll talk more to what I'm seeing in the battle here. This is Charlotte's second buff here, really where she shines a little bit more. I'm hoping, so he's going to use his barrier there. And I'm assuming that's a quicken charge that Nivlu was using on Charlotte. There we go. CT down, and hopefully this kills it. Oh. Oh, interesting. She's hasting Cloud. Okay. So she's almost like pseudo Velis in this, that she's hasting both people first. Please don't use... Thank you. Conserve the AP. Cloud is going to do Barrage. That did a little more than I wanted. This is probably going to hurt too. Kind of saw that coming, but goodbye. This is great. So my backup, hopefully not claimed yet. I think they're still there. So I'm calling it in my chat. And sorry, again, chat, I'm not looking at the moment because I am looking at my Discord. Remember, we wanted to clear this guild in 10 minutes. This is a speed run. We got all hands on deck to do so. My, you know, obviously Noctis is low enough health, but full AP Oberyn. And I wasn't paying attention. I don't think I saw Ryu uses Courage ability. I could be totally off on that. But I'm like pretty positive that Oberyn can like solo this comp. Definitely going for the 6-star. I usually don't have a massive problem getting 6 stars. As we talked about, the disparity between a lot of these guilds in the top end and the middle end, it just, with the Trust Stone system, the subvision cards, there's just, it's getting to the point where that gap is just almost too large to overcome for anybody that plays casually. Which is why normal Guild War, you don't get that problem, but like limited Guild War, you definitely get that problem. Interesting. Yeah, so my thing with this comp was because it's tankless, I just figured it'd be easy just to pick off one by one, because, you know, that's the whole benefit of the tank. It's one of the things that I don't think tankless evade can work. It's because the tank is supposed to draw focus fire, some of the guaranteed hits, supposed to make you use some AP skills on them so that you don't have AP later on. But when you go tankless evade, you know, you have that lock walk out there. Well, if Noctis comes out here and just goodbye, and he's going to re-raise, that's fine, but like that, he's used that re-raise too early in the fight, where normally if you have a tank to soak up that kind of hit, you know, you don't have that problem. So there's no way she lives through this. She's dead. Yeah, max damage, not even a chance. Ryu Sentinel, I'm actually really happy for that ability. I know Cloud is not going to finish him here because of that. Interesting ability here. Yeah, goodbye. And then now Locke is just going to do nothing. I have, at the very least, yeah, he's done. And I kind of saw that too, where when you have a mixed element comp like this, you obviously aren't going to be able to optimize some of the vision cards for maximum evasion that you would otherwise. Where max evasion for a light comp is, Bahamut with the 8% agility, and the Rob vision card for the 20, what do you call it? 20 evasion, things of that nature. So, when I've initially scouted this as my backup, like I knew for a fact that lock was going to be an absolute pushover, particularly because they are tankless evasion. So, again, that's kind of the difference. Like that, just it's just not the kind of comp that can really win a wide variety of things. So, on that note, ended up with the 6 stars here. Looks like a lot of stuff. We are 7 stars away from clearing this guild. We are at 7 minutes on the clock. Hopefully, we can finish off these last couple. I'm going to sit here real time and see how this updates. And that's it, 88. We're at 7 minutes. Who can finish off Topher? Dude, I would like do it live if someone refreshed me. I know I don't have to. We have people that can do it, but that'd be pretty dope. Get 8 stars on a live stream. Maybe next time. We'll think that far ahead. Thanks, Sinister. Come on! Who's taking it? And actually, I'm gonna... So I could scroll through and show all the different attack teams. Oh, I got the supply. Let's go. Wait. I just saw Nurgent supplied me. Attack. Oh, no. Someone else took it. Nurgent, I don't think we got it in time. Yeah. Oh, no. We technically used an extra sword that we didn't have to. That's okay. Thank you. That would have been dope as hell. Someone just beat me to it. Just barely beat me to it. That's okay, though. So, like, what, 7 minutes? That's the 90 stars. So, yeah, it happens quickly. Honestly, if I had prepped that ahead of time, I probably should have just have been like, hey, we're obviously going live. Let's have some fun with this. But that's it. I think that's, I don't want to say a record for VIP, but it certainly might be. Oh, that's right. So it ends up being 0. Yeah. Cool. That's pretty cool. And so now, obviously, Royal Flush is going to have their opportunities to try to get as many stars as possible. I don't have much else to say about that. But, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm enjoying my time so far. Definitely no regrets. This is exactly what I wanted. And I wanted to be able to share this experience for everybody watching as well. For those of you that came a little bit later, if you rewatched the video, again, kind of went through my whole thoughts on the map topography, strategies, things I'm seeing. I can certainly do a follow-up video as we talk about the elements more in depth. I'm going to tinker with some more tat comps on my side, see what I can find working, not working. But that's about it for now. I don't have any other questions I wanted to go over. Unless anyone else in chat has something burning they want to talk about, I will end up calling it just a little bit early. That way people that end up rewatching the stream don't have an hour of me fumbling for words or topics. But for those that are here, thank you so much for coming and watching. Hopefully this was something insightful and entertaining that you may not get to see in your normal Guild Wars. Although this is obviously the 1% top end of what normally occurs in the top 5 or top 10. This is not unheard of what we've done here in terms of the scouting, and then you call your targets, and then you hit and try to optimize who hits what and who gets second follow-up attacks, things of that nature. So yeah, that's kind of a good exposure for those that think this is cool, want to learn a lot more. And if you find yourself kind of falling into the side of things where you're having struggle putting different compositions together, the knowledge at the top end of the game, and I say top 10, but realistically any top 25 guild will absolutely still have things for you to learn. And excuse me, there's enough players like JB79, his own guild Howl, although not a top 50 guild, he is part of that, and I have no doubt that he is there and available to talk to guildmates, and it's still a collaborative effort that at the end of the day, the guild is the best thing you can do to experience this game to its fullest. But on that note, I am going to end stream in just a couple minutes here. Again, really big shout out to everyone watching. Thank you, VIP, for letting me host something cool like this. Hopefully we can do something again similar and even try to beat that record faster. And if cards fall correctly, maybe we can get a 9-star live on stream. That'd be pretty dope. But for now, I'm leaving with a smile on my face. Hopefully y'all are too. And thanks for watching. And I will talk to you soon. In terms of content, I do have 2 very quick videos coming out that will go over some of the equipment pieces that came out this last week. And then I am still working on the Resnick character overview. I'm tempering the way I think about her just a little bit because I think she's really good. I just don't know if her time is now so much as it is down the road. So I'm just trying to make sure I balance that opinion properly, particularly giving the sensitivity around the topic of lightning versus water. So yeah, I will be having a Resnick character review coming soon. I'm excited to see what we have for news dropping tomorrow morning. Looking at the characters or the schedule overall, where are we here? I don't know exactly what's supposed to come tomorrow. Because technically, JP, we are a little staggered here. So Resnick was released the same week as the Sakura and Raldor EX upgrades and the Ayaka Mastery upgrade. Thank you, Whisper. I'm a Whisper stan. What can I say? I just wish she was better. She's still the queen of PvE content, just PvP. A little rough. So yeah, I don't know if Dark Leela is still on the docket for them tomorrow's news. I'd be a little bit surprised, but anything's possible. So I'll stop there. I'll talk to y'all soon. See you later.